and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9. I'm Paul Kretschmer. On today's broadcast, a introduction to an organization called LiveBeyond, based in Nashville, Tennessee, and begun by Dr. David Vanderpool. He'll talk today about its start in Haiti, and then in later weeks we will hear about its work in the Middle East.
Yes, I'm David Vanderpool, and I'm CEO of LiveBeyond.
And how long has that organization been in existence then, Doctor?
18 years.
18 years. And what was the initial motivation for its starting?
Well, that's a good question. We, we had done medical mission work. I'm a surgeon, and we'd done medical mission work as a family for 20 or so years prior. And Katrina hit in 2005. And we started working down there. We had not really done a lot of work in the United States. We'd spent most of our time in Africa and Central America. But Katrina hit, and we went down to work there and realized a lot of people said that they would like to give us GIK, or gifts in kind. And so that never really had occurred to us a whole lot. And to do that, they really needed for us to be a 501c3. We'd always been self-funded prior to that time and didn't really concern ourselves with raising money and that kind of thing. But in 2005, we started the actual nonprofit, and we were able to then work with partners, that have been extremely helpful in the expansion of the ministry. So that 2005 was a pivotal year for us. I continued with my practice until 2013, and then we sold our possessions and moved to Haiti full time, where we had a base of operations. So
this has a certain element of danger to it, as I recall hearing reports from the BBC, for instance, about how unusual Haiti it has been, especially for a number of years now.
You know, it really has. Haiti has had just a tremendous amount of violence. The government collapsed some time ago. The president was assassinated. Parliament was disbanded. The judiciary was disbanded. And so really there's no functional government in Haiti. And in that vacuum, gangs have taken over. There's always been gang activity in Haiti, but not to this extent. They really have no control over them now. The police are, very understaffed and undermanned, and their equipment is antiquated. The gangs have some of the latest armament. So really no match, and so the gangs act pretty much without any constraint in Haiti. So there's a lot more violence, which has caused us to leave Haiti. Our base is run completely by Haitians, and it's self-sustaining at this point. So that's usually our trigger to go and start a new work somewhere else. When our effort becomes sustainable, that's always our goal. So it was the time sort of coincided. It was getting a little untenable to stay in a country that violent. We'd had quite a bit of violence perpetrated against us personally, and that gets a little old after a while. But it did allow us to start a new work as well in the Middle East. So.
There are some elements of the Middle East right now that sound very familiar compared to Haiti, for instance. You have an area where you have people, and then you've got the same area overlapped with violence and seeming disregard for the people who live there, because the violent people have an objective that doesn't coincide with the residents. How does that look to you right now from your position?
Well, it really is true, and it's very common that low-income countries, such as Haiti, the West Bank is not technically a low-income country but it sort of functions as one. A low-income country would be one that has a GDP per capita of less than $1,200 a year. And theirs is a little bit higher than that. It's a little bit artificially propped up. But low-income countries, are low-income for a reason. It's never an accident. And part of that reason is bad governance and corruption. And that tends to coincide with violence. Typically, the people who live in low-income countries are not served adequately by their government. Things that you usually assume governments would take care of, these governments don't take care of. Things like clean water and sewage control and electricity and education, healthcare, those kind of things. And so these people are very underserved. They're very impoverished. And that's the group that our organization serves. And so we've committed our lives to serving the poorest of the poor. And there are 24 or so countries in the world that qualify for that designation. And most of these countries are very violent. Typically, the governments are not held accountable, for their actions because the people are unarmed and they're also weak. They're living on the knife edge of survival. And so they stay poor. And this is a cycle of poverty that persists in many parts of the world.
In the case of the Middle East and in Israel, the right bank and the Gaza Strip, how does someone like you or an organization like yours work in an area where there seems to be some semblance of government, but it's, as you mentioned, it's not really very functional? How do you work in a vacuum like that?
Well, it is very challenging, and the good thing is we've made most of the mistakes already, so we try not to repeat those mistakes, and we have sort of a formula that we use. The services that we provide are typically government-related services, so we provide education and healthcare and that kind of thing. And so we will, when we go into a new country, so in 2018, we went into the West Bank. We initially went to Israel and met with the government. So our first step, second step, first step is determining which country we will go to. Second step is meeting with the government officials. And so we met with the Israeli government officials, and they said, we don't really have any poor here to speak of. It's a socialist economy. The government provides, really every service that you can imagine from cradle to grave. And so there's really no place for an organization like ours that takes care of the poor. But the Israeli government said you've got to go into the West Bank, and that would be very helpful. And so the Israeli government actually made the appointments for us with the West Bank government officials, which I thought was really incredible on a lot of levels. And so we met with those guys. So our first step is to meet with the government, tell them who we are and what our skill sets are, and see if they can identify aspects of our skill sets that they would like to implement. And usually in these countries, they have a plethora of needs, and we have a fairly broad array of things that we can do. And so there's usually some intersection.
That was the voice of Dr. David Vanderpool, the founder of LiveBeyond, a mobile medical disaster relief organization based in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll hear more about its work in the Middle East in the coming weeks. For further information in the meantime, call us at 860-346-1049. 860-346-1049. You can drop an email to office@wihsradio.org. office@wihsradio.org. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of the station. I'm Paul Kretschmer for the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 WIHS.